I am the orphan girl rescued by Jason. He pitied me because my parents, as martyrs, both sacrificed their lives defending the country. For 7 years, he pampered me into the most noble princess in the entire Shanghai circle. Yet, after I expressed my feelings, he ignored me for 3 years. On the day of his engagement, I also accepted someone else's proposal. I do. After I accepted the proposal, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. From the main seat, Mrs. Gray smiled contentedly. "Child, it's good that you've come around. There's still a month until the wedding date, just enough time to prepare properly." She and the groom's parents joyfully discussed the wedding details. I sat in my seat, calmly observing everything before me. My heart was utterly undisturbed. My best friend sat beside me, her expression worried. "Nina, why don't we go talk to Jason again? There must still be a chance to turn things around." I gave her a reassuring look and smiled. "I'm getting married. As my sister, aren't you happy for me? Look at them, how joyful they are." The one who should be happiest about my acceptance of the proposal is probably Jason. My best friend didn't understand, her voice choking, "But I've grown up with you since childhood, and I can see that Jason pampers you the most." Her words pulled me back to 10 years ago. At 13, my parents sacrificed themselves defending the country on the frontier. The so-called relatives devoured the household, dividing up my family's property, yet none were willing to take responsibility for my livelihood. Who will raise this girl? My family can't afford to support so many people. I'd like to, but with 2 boys at home, it's inconvenient. Those relatives discussed my fate. The small me curled up in the corner, frightened and uneasy. At that moment, a sunny and tall young boy stepped forward. He took my hand, his tone firm. "If none of you want her, I do." Then, he brought me home. From that day on, I was taken in by the Chen family. Naturally, I also became close to Jason. He appeared cold in personality, yet he could attentively take care of me. I remember I loved wearing pink long skirts, disliked eating scallions, and high heels chafed my feet. While busy with his career, he didn't forget to pick me up from school and take me to eat. Even a casual remark from me, he would remember it. Once, he held my hand and said, "If Nina doesn't want to marry in the future, I'll support Nina for a lifetime." He cherished me, pampered me, and would give me the best things. He often took me to various occasions and banquets. Over time, I became the most delicate little princess known throughout the Shanghai circle. I kept his words in my heart, unaware that love had quietly taken root and sprouted. I thought this lifetime would pass happily like this. Jason would forever be mine alone. But that year, he brought another girl home for the New Year's Eve dinner. He served her food and poured her wine, taking care of her everywhere. Angrily, I flung my hands and left the table, declaring my feelings in front of everyone. "Jason, I like you. I want to marry you as your wife. I am the child taken in by the Chen family." From 13, I was brought back to the Chen home and grew up with Jason. We were childhood sweethearts. If we could marry and have children, it would be a perfect match. But Jason didn't seem to think so. From then on, he began to avoid me like the plague. I was unwilling to give up. From childhood to adulthood, he cherished and pampered me so much. I believed his feelings for me were more than just familial. He just hadn't faced his own heart yet. If he didn't love me, why pamper me to the skies? If he didn't love me, why would he get jealous of every male around me? The most loving thing I did for him was accompanying him to study abroad the year he went. As days passed, my infatuation appeared as clingy behavior in others' eyes. Outsiders no longer said we were a perfect match. Instead, they said I was pestering Jason relentlessly, like a plaster that couldn't be shaken off. I didn't take their words to heart. I only cared about Jason. However, I waited for a long time, but never heard him say he loved me. What came was only his distancing. He used work busyness to brush me off, no longer picking me up from school or taking me to eat. He even rarely returned to the Chen home to avoid meeting me. The boy who once treated me as a treasure eventually became a cold and busy CEO. On the day of my university graduation, I expected him to attend my ceremony. Unfortunately, he still didn't come. Mrs. Grace, seeing how hard I was waiting, finally told me the truth. Jason once had a childhood playmate who died of a serious illness at 7. As her good friend, he blamed himself for not taking good care of her and felt deeply guilty. Later, when he met you, your helpless appearance in the crowd resembled that little companion so much. That's why he stepped in to save you and brought you back to the Chen home. You are both my children, and you've all grown up. Nina, you should understand that Jason has no romantic love for you. Hearing this, I suddenly realized. I finally understood the source of Jason's favoritism toward me. It turned out that everything I received was merely due to his guilt towards someone else. My happiness was stolen. A few months later, Jason got engaged. The woman was exactly the girl he had brought home for the New Year's Eve dinner. Her name is Zoe. It was also on this day that I complied with Mrs. Grace's wishes and married the young master of the Li family in a union. The Li family and the Chen family are old acquaintances with long-term business dealings. His marrying me strengthened the ties. Leon doesn't like me, and I don't like him. Privately, we agreed to a marriage in form only to appease the families. We would act as a couple on the surface but not interfere in each other's lives. Actually, I had thought of leaving altogether. But upon careful consideration, the Chen family had taken me in for many years and had done nothing to wrong me. I couldn't selfishly leave capriciously, disregarding their kindness. That day, when I returned home from work, the house was very lively. Zoe had come. She sat beside Jason, chatting warmly with Mrs. Grace. The two families were harmonious and joyful, appearing even more like one family. I originally wanted to find an excuse to return to my room, but Jason called me. "Sit down and eat." His expression was firm, his tone brooking no refusal. I could only comply and sit down. At the dinner table, I deliberately chose a seat far from Jason. I ate by myself, silent. As I ate, I noticed a peeled section of mantis shrimp in my bowl. I was suddenly stunned. Jason withdrew his hand quickly, trying to conceal the action. He said indifferently, "These days, you rarely come home for meals." I hummed in response, saying nothing. To avoid me, he had been leaving early and returning late. We were like strangers living under the same roof. It was impressive that he could still notice I had been eating at home less recently. Jason frowned and said, "If there's nothing else, try to come home for meals." I was slightly surprised. In the past, he would have gently stroked my head and coaxed me in a childish tone, "Outside food lacks nutrition. In the future, Nina should come home for meals, and I'll make what Nina likes." Zoe came over, smiling. "Nina has grown up, has her own life, she can take care of herself." She intimately linked arms with Jason, declaring her sovereignty. After a pause, she said, "I remember I haven't bought Nina a gift yet. After dinner, let's go shopping. I heard Nina likes Croatian gem necklaces the most." Jason's brows furrowed slightly, somewhat hesitant. She looked at me and continued, "Consider it a small token from me. Nina won't refuse, right?" Jason's future wife was showing goodwill. I had no reason to refuse. I nodded mechanically, forcing a bitter smile. Throughout the meal, I felt like an outsider. Listening to Zoe and Mrs. Grace chat about family matters, discuss the wedding guest list, and talk about where to shop later. Jason kept agreeing with her, the two were very harmonious. This meal tasted like wax to me. With my head down, I tried hard to suppress my emotions. After the meal ended, I followed Jason and Zoe out again, heading to the most upscale mall in Shanghai. I trailed behind them like a follower. Watching Jason select expensive jewelry and buy Hermes bags to win a smile from his beauty. Listening to the envious voices around, complimenting them, truly a talented man and beautiful woman, a golden boy and jade girl. Young Master Jason is really generous to Miss Zoe, so envious. A man like Jason, handsome and wealthy, and so devoted, is truly rare in the world. Zoe shyly lowered her head, her face full of coyness. She turned back, saying with a touch of virtuousness, "We agreed to bring Nina to buy jewelry, how come we're only buying bags for me? Why not give this necklace to her? Doesn't she like gem necklaces the most?" Her light words reminded me of the beautiful moments with Jason back then. I liked Croatian necklaces only because he had praised me. He said my swan neck must wear a necklace to look good, and Croatian necklaces suited my temperament. From that day on, my neck would always have a necklace. Jason glanced at me indifferently, saying nothing. Zoe, with a radiant face, stuffed the necklace into my hand. She said softly, smiling, "As you saw, Jason bought me bags worth hundreds of thousands, this cheap necklace is for you." She waved the Hermes bag in her hand and touched the necklace on her neck. Returning to Jason's side, she linked arms with him again. He took her shopping in the mall, leaving me behind. Carelessly, I was tripped by someone. My whole body tumbled down the stairs, ending up sitting on the ground. I exclaimed in surprise, clutching my knee, grimacing in pain. People around saw and gathered, quickly helping me up. "Not far away, Zoe," immersed in happiness, "when we're tired from shopping, let's go to the Riverside restaurant for some desserts." I was helped up, and as I looked up, I met his gaze. But soon, he retracted his sight. "Are you okay?" I limped, thanking the crowd around. My thoughts drifted. Our secret base, had he told Miss Zoe too? One day, I discovered an elegant hidden gem restaurant. Sitting by the window eating, one could overlook the entire Shanghai, seeing the Oriental Pearl. Moreover, the dishes were plentiful and delicious. I couldn't wait to find Jason, smiling mysteriously. "I found a hidden gem restaurant, I guarantee you'll love it after one visit. But you must promise not to tell others, from now on, this restaurant will be our regular dining spot." I extended my pinky, lightly hooking with the boy. He said indulgently, "Don't worry, I promise." The restaurant had dim lights and a warm atmosphere. We leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the bustling traffic. Sharing dinner, chatting about everything. Despite the people coming and going below, the vast world, I cherished this moment especially. On New Year's Eve night, foolishly wishing upon the sky full of fireworks. Hoping that every day in the future, I could be by Jason's side. At the Riverside restaurant, eating countless meals with him. Hee, turns out wishes aren't effective at all. I limped home with difficulty. From the medicine box, I took out wound ointment and applied it to myself. It wasn't until the next day that Zoe heard about my injury. She specially came to the house to visit me, bringing many fruits. Jason, to avoid suspicion, didn't accompany her. He just waited at my room door. I lay on the bed, listening to Zoe's solicitous inquiries, full of concern. I originally wanted to perfunctorily respond a few sentences and send her away. But who knew, she suddenly mentioned Jason taking her to the Riverside restaurant last night. She said Jason understood her tastes and preferences. He carefully prepared roses, champagne, and fireworks for her. They were together the whole night yesterday, so sweet. I perfunctorily agreed with her, "Is that so?" "Pretty good." "Not bad." Very good." I responded expressionlessly. From my attitude, I didn't seem at all like the woman others said pestered Jason relentlessly. Instead, I was a friend who sincerely blessed Jason. Zoe, finding it uninteresting, stood up and surveyed my room. She said faintly, "Your boudoir is really beautiful." The room's furnishings were arranged according to Jason's aesthetic. With pink and white as the base tones, warm and serene. Every corner was filled with fluffy dolls Jason had collected from various places in his early years. I thought it wouldn't be long before these dolls' owner wouldn't be me anymore. When Zoe left, I got out of bed to see her off. She stood beside Jason, appearing especially petite. Seeing me come out, he asked, "Is the injury better?" I nodded, glancing at him. I noticed that the mechanical watch I gave him a few years ago was missing from his wrist. In its place was an expensive Rolex. Now thinking about it, the watch I gave was indeed too ordinary. For a young master like Jason, it had to be a famous watch. I wasn't angry either, calmly asking, "Is the wedding date set?" He was silent for a while, then answered, "The 3rd of next month, when I return from abroad." This year, the company developed well, connecting with overseas projects. He was sent abroad for exchanges and negotiations. "Congratulations," I said in blessing. My heart was filled with mixed emotions. 1,000 words, ultimately hard to express. His eyes were profound, he nodded. Holding Zoe's hand, preparing to send her home. Watching their departing figures together, I couldn't help sighing, they really match. I loved Jason for so many years, but it was just a dream. From the beginning, he never belonged to me. He just treated me as a friend. The Lee family came to present betrothal gifts, and the two families gathered to hold an engagement banquet. Mrs. Grace was very happy, her son and daughter's marriages were settled. I told her I had no other requests, only to hold the wedding before Jason went abroad. She originally worried I would throw a tantrum, now seeing me obedient and sensible, she agreed. The wedding was kept simple. Jason returned to the country early, 2 days before my wedding. Mrs. Grace, aware of the matters between Jason and me, appeared somewhat worried. I didn't expect Jason to return home early either. My room had been rummaged through messily. Clothes, dolls scattered on the floor. There were also shattered vases and overturned trash cans. And the gift I hadn't yet given to Jason. Search everywhere, don't miss any corner. Several women started rummaging in my room. With annoyance on my face, I walked up to them and questioned, "Who are you? On what basis are you searching my room?" Those women weren't afraid of me at all, arrogantly lifting their proud chins, appearing superior. "My best friend's newly bought Hermes bag is missing, we're here to help her find it," I said with a stern face, coldly, "I haven't seen it." Those women scoffed, not believing my words, just about to retort when Zoe came in with Jason. Zoe's eyes were red. "Nina, if you like that bag, I'll have Jason buy one for you too." "That bag is the engagement gift Jason bought for me, it absolutely can't be given to you." Jason adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his face slightly dark. "Nina, hand it over. I didn't expect that while I was abroad on business, you'd become more and more disappointing. If you want something, just tell me directly, why take Zoe's things?" My heart felt a chill, my pink fists clenched. Extremely seriously gazing at him, meeting his disbelieving eyes. I said, "I haven't seen it, and I wouldn't take it. You told me to give up, I listened to you and have given up. Why are you still provoking me?" Zoe's female best friend mocked, "Give up? I just found a wedding dress in your closet. If you've really given up, why still hide a wedding dress?" Saying that, she pulled out an elegant and luxurious wedding dress from the closet. Heavily throwing it in front of everyone, and flipping out the straps. Then, sarcastically to me, "Bought 2 years ago, and still reluctant to throw it away now. Keeping this wedding dress, are you trying to steal someone else's husband? So shameless." Jason looked at the wedding dress, his face indifferent. From my understanding of him, at this moment, he must be very disappointed inside. Obstinately unrepentant. He said faintly, no longer paying attention. Turning to Zoe, he said gently, "Forget the bag, I'll buy a better one for you." Zoe nodded, appearing obedient and sensible. There was a hint of secret joy in her eyes. I loosened my fists, a deep sense of powerlessness arising. Fatigue swept over me. Jason, long in the business world, talented and handsome. How many socialites wanted to approach him, all in vain. Having seen countless people, how could he not see through such a small scheme? It was just that he didn't believe me. As she left, Zoe leaned to my ear, whispering, "You took my necklace, this is me returning the favor." Her brows curved, she linked arms with Jason, leaving with her best friends. The large room left only me. Looking at the mess everywhere, stirred up like a garbage dump. I sighed, moved my steps, crunching on a broken cup. Picking up that wedding dress despised by all, carefully holding it in my arms. The room was made so chaotic, even if cleaned, it couldn't be restored to original. I took my bank card, ID, and other valuables, left the room. Then called Mrs. Grace, telling her the wedding would start from the hotel for the bride's departure. Finally glancing at the messy room. This place was once personally arranged by Jason. Now it had become wretched. Originally blooming in splendor, now all reduced to ruined wells and broken walls. My wedding was held quietly. Leon and I had good tacit understanding, neither publicized it. He was decent to me. In the Lee family villa, he cleared a sunny room for me. We lived under the same roof. In public, we acted loving. In private, we didn't interfere in each other's lives. Seeing me unhappy, he suggested taking me on a trip after this busy period. Then we could go out like friends to relax. At this moment, the most attention-grabbing event in all of Shanghai, even the country, was Jason and Zoe's wedding. The wedding was to be held a week later, inviting half of the Shanghai Circle's dignitaries. Even when I went out for breakfast, I could hear discussions about this on every street corner. Jason is getting married. Surprisingly, his clingy follower has no reaction. The wood is already made into a boat. Even if she makes a fuss, it can't change anything, only making people laugh. Sigh, actually that one is pretty good too. Before, I often saw them going to Hope Primary School and nursing homes, visiting those poor children and elders. Every time, they donated money and supplies. Back then, everyone said they were a perfect match. Who would have thought it would end up like this? What a shame. The old man sighed deeply, recalling the charitable work Jason and I had done. I was about to leave when, inattentively, I bumped into a young girl. I was just about to apologize, but the girl didn't mind at all. She looked at me, her eyes full of surprise. Miss Nina. She called me in surprise. I'm Teacher Wendy. I really didn't expect to meet you here. Then, she invited me to the Hope Primary School I had once donated to. The corridor echoed with clear reading voices. Through the windows, one could see the tender, studious little faces inside. During break, those children saw me coming. Without exception, they welcomed me. Sister Nina. The kids surrounded me, joyfully calling nonstop. Long ago, Jason and I had sponsored this Hope Primary School together. We would visit the school from time to time to ensure the funds were distributed. Seeing them again, innocent and lively, I felt very comforted inside. Perhaps because my biological parents passed away early, sometimes I felt that actually, I was no different from them. The same loneliness, the same hardships of the world. I asked them smilingly, have you been studying hard? Have your grades improved? It had been half a year since my last visit to this school. The children beside me excitedly spoke, reporting their learning achievements over the past half year. One of the children said, Sister Nina, why didn't Brother Jason come together? Half a year ago, Brother said I have talent in drawing and bought me brushes. I drew a portrait of you too, keeping it in my school bag every day, just waiting for the day you both come so I can personally give it to you. Saying that, he flipped out a piece of paper from his school bag. The paper was somewhat yellowed, appearing aged. But the drawing was neat, well preserved. In the picture, Jason and I were smiling and chatting, children surrounding us. Seeing this drawing, my heart twisted, very painful. Teacher Wendy, seeing my smile stop, immediately scolded him. Then, slightly embarrassed, said to me, children, innocent words. Probably she had seen the news and knew about Jason's upcoming marriage. Looking at their cautious manner, I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. I pretended not to care, saying calmly, it's fine, I'm married too. Jason is a good man, but he's just my friend. Just after speaking, the classroom door was pushed open. Jason appeared at the door. He wore a black suit, gold-rimmed glasses, appearing gentle and refined. The children beside me surrounded him, excitedly calling, Brother Jason. I was stunned, asking puzzled, why are you here? Hearing my question, a child scratched his head and stepped forward. It was me who called Brother Jason. Last time he left me his phone number, saying to call if there's anything. Usually, Sister Nina and Brother Jason come together to see us. Today only Sister Nina, brother didn't come, so I called him. The drawing child also came over. He asked Jason aggrievedly, "Brother Jason, Teacher Wendy just scolded me. Because I drew for you and sister, teacher said you're getting married, I can't draw for you too, did I really do wrong? You're getting married, what about Sister Nina?" He shook his little head, looking at Jason innocently. I was somewhat unnatural, explaining, "Brother is getting married, sister is married too, in the future, we'll come separately to see you." Jason looked at me deeply, wanting to speak but stopping. Ultimately, he chose silence. Then, as usual, we interacted with the children, caring about their lives and studies. The difference was, we each did our own things. Under the sunset, Jason and I strolled on the campus, preparing to end the day's itinerary. For a moment, it felt as if I had returned to the past. He spoke faintly, "You shouldn't have lied to them that you're married." After a pause, he added, "The room at home has been cleaned for you, move back in." I was slightly dazed, so he didn't know about my marriage yet. But I quickly realized. Probably Mrs. Grace feared we might do something out of line, so she didn't tell him. Following his words, I asked, "A woman with no blood relation, unmarried, living long-term in the Chen home, won't your wife mind?" He was somewhat surprised. "The Chen home is your home too, how could you think that?" I lowered my eyes, saying calmly, "Mr. Jason, you're getting married, don't say such things to me anymore." I had never called Jason Mr., always calling him by name directly, occasionally coquettishly calling him Brother Jason. Such a formal address, it was my first time. On his calm face, a ripple appeared. But he still maintained composure. "I just hope we can properly position our friendship." I burst out laughing. Jason frowned slightly, showing confusion. I raised my head, expression serious, "Mr. Jason, I'm serious. I expressed my feelings to you, and you rejected me. My reputation is bad, becoming a well-known clown in the Shanghai circle, no man is willing to marry me. I think this is retribution for pestering you back then. You're getting married, how can we be like before?" Jason had a stern face, expression unreadable. Standing beside him, I could feel his whole body tense, filled with mixed emotions. After a long time, he uttered, I said, "If you don't want to marry, don't live at home for a lifetime." I stopped, saying coldly, "Thank you for Mr. Jason's kindness, but I'm already married. As a wife, I should keep distance from the opposite sex, even good friends. To avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, please Mr. Jason consider your future wife and properly position our friendship. In the future, I'm afraid I can't come to the school with Mr. Jason to visit them anymore. Please remember these children and show more kindness." "You're married?" Jason's tone rose several decibels, emphasizing again. He looked incredulous, pressing his chest. How did I not know about this? "Nina, are you saying this in anger?" At the school gate, Zoe was already waiting. I saw her figure at a glance. I didn't explain, silently walking away. Zoe saw Jason, quickly running over, coquettishly, "Jason, how did you come here? I've been looking for you for half a day." "Nina is here too, I just have something to say to her." I quickly walked away, not wanting her to catch up and entangle again. When I returned to the Lee home, Leon was lying on the sofa watching TV. "Back? Tired? Want to take a bath?" Leon poured me a glass of water, then asked, "How about Mo? See the aurora?" "Good." Last time we talked about traveling, he started planning. We calculated the arrangements and preparations for Mo. Leon, while looking at his phone, reported the itinerary to me. We first go to Harbin for transfer, then fly to Mo. Tickets, driver, accommodation, all arranged. It's cold in winter there, bring more warm clothes. Tent, food, camera, regular medicine, I brought too. You girls love taking photos, then I'll take some nice ones for you. I nodded, smiling, good, I believe in your photography skills. Going to Mo to see the aurora was my suggestion. Jason was very busy with work, no time for travel. I stuck to him, rarely leaving Shanghai. Now with the opportunity, of course I wanted to see the world's most wonderful landscape. Moreover, I believed that if I could see the aurora, there's nothing in the world that can't be overcome. At night, I lay in bed tossing and turning, completely sleepless. I took out that unfinished score again and started composing on it. I graduated from a music academy and have considerable research in lyric writing and composing. Originally learning music was because Jason said music can cultivate sentiment and add to a woman's temperament. Now it has become a hobby of mine. I wrote a song Mo Dance Hall. I've never seen a village where aurora appears nor seen anyone setting off fireworks at midnight. Evening stars like your eyes, killing and setting fire. You said nothing, wild wind disturbs me. A few days later, I submitted it to a record company. The boss held my score, praising it endlessly, repeatedly applauding. At the same time, he asked suspiciously, "Are you sure to sell this song?" I nodded affirmatively. This song is my blood and sweat, also my voice. If it can be released, of course I want more audiences to hear the song I wrote. The boss asked again, "Did you write this song?" His eyes carried a bit of contempt. I was somewhat puzzled but still nodded. Seeing that, the boss changed his expression, gloomy face. The original author of this song is Miss Zoe. Yesterday Miss Zoe attended a Bulgari event and sang this song on site. You dare shamelessly say you wrote this song? Security! Get this plagiarist out. I was extremely annoyed, driven out. I ran to several more record companies in succession, same result. Isn't this Zoe's new song? Who doesn't know Zoe is Shanghai's great talent? Don't slander Miss Zoe, she couldn't possibly plagiarize your song. This song was written by me in countless sleepless nights. Filled with my longing for the aurora. And my helplessness toward life and fate. I never mentioned it to anyone. How did it leak out? I recalled the day Zoe brought her female best friends and turned my room upside down. Could it be then? Leaving the record company, I hurried back to the Chen home, wanting to demand an explanation from her. Leon knew my encounter and insisted on going with me. After all, you're my nominal wife. The Lee family wife being bullied, how can I, the husband, not step forward? I thought for a while and agreed to his request. With Leon backing me, Zoe would probably be wary. The Chen family villa. At this moment, the house was decorated with lights and lanterns, red double happiness symbols pasted everywhere. Just arriving at the villa entrance, Mrs. Grace came out to greet. She took me to the study, expression somewhat displeased. Why have you come? I explained, Mrs. Grace, I have something to ask young Master Jason. Her gaze was cold, eyes completely lacking the former affection. Nina, I hope you respect yourself. I took you in, cherished you, not for you to cause trouble at my son's wedding. Leon held my hand, gently squeezing to reassure me. He smiled at Mrs. Grace. Grace, you misunderstood, my wife has no such idea. Then he explained the ins and outs to Mrs. Grace. After listening, Mrs. Grace temporarily sighed in relief. Then, in an indifferent tone, just a song, how much for the copyright fee? Name your price. I was unmoved, shaking my head. It's not about the copyright fee, but someone stole my work. I just want the truth, who took my song? I insisted on clarifying the facts. Mrs. Grace's face became increasingly ugly, angrily whispering, these years, you survived till now thanks to the Chen family's shelter. Eating from the family, using from the family, have we ever haggled over a penny with you? Now coming to make trouble over a song, are you trying to repay kindness with enmity? Leon and I were slightly stunned. As the matriarch of a great family, Mrs. Grace still had certain authority and presence. When angry, anyone would fear her a bit. The atmosphere was stiff when a familiar hoarse male voice sounded, it was me, sorry. I took the initiative to show your manuscript to Zoe. She said just to look, didn't expect she would release it. Jason was panting, chest heaving, expression somewhat weary. He must have hurried over, and hadn't rested well these days. His appearance also silenced Mrs. Grace. I watched him slowly walk toward me, his figure somewhat thinner, the whole person more dejected. Jason stared straight at me, asking, "Nina, to spite me, you ran off to marry someone? These days you didn't come home, I checked your ID, no hotel records, where exactly did you go? Where did you stay at night?" I asked Mom wouldn't tell me. I was looked at somewhat unnaturally, grabbing Leon's arm. His gaze followed my action, landing on Leon. Jason stern-faced, voice cold, "It was you who deceived Nina?" Leon's back straight, not afraid at all, looking up to meet Jason's eyes. Both had hidden anger in their eyes, neither yielding. Seeing the situation wrong, I quickly mediated, "Men marry when of age, women too, mutual consent, even as friends, you can't control that much, right?" "I control too much?" Jason repeated, tone incredulous. The chill in his eyes intensified. Turning to Mrs. Grace, "Mom, Nina's parents sacrificed to save Dad back then. Their family is loyal and heroic, moreover gracious to the Chin family. The Chin family has the duty to shelter her, not to mention over a decade, even a lifetime is what the Chin family should do. Father's debt, son repays, I do so willingly. Her marriage is such a big matter, no matchmaker, no betrothal, no marriage certificate, it doesn't count." After saying, he looked at me, gaze fervent. "Nina, it was my fault. Move back home, your room I've reorganized." His face ashen, like frost. I shook my head, "We've held the wedding, we're husband and wife." Mrs. Grace echoed, "Yes, choose a good day to get the certificate." Jason's eyes profound, bottomless. "Nina, are you still spiting me? You chose the Lee family for business alliance?" "I don't want the Lee family's business." Jason's tone firm, "If not for alliance, if you really want to marry, you can marry me. If you don't want to marry, with me here, no one dares force you." I burst out laughing. "Jason, you're about to marry, what nonsense. Today I came to Chin home with my husband just to clarify what happened to the song I wrote. I don't want to be wronged by the world. I admit before I was immature, fanciful. Now I'm married, thoughts matured, understood some truths. You're right, we're friends, forever can't cross the line." Back then when I expressed to Jason how he replied to me, now I returned verbatim. Using his words, blocked him speechless. His face became increasingly ugly. Not looking at him, I continued, "For the song, I'll hire lawyers, police to investigate clearly. In the future, without important matters, I won't disturb anymore. Jason, wish you and Miss Zoe happiness." Without waiting for his reply, I pulled Leon's hand and walked out. Jason's figure swayed somewhat, unsteady. I took it as illusion and left the Chin home. In just 2 days, hot searches exploded with 2 big news. One is talented woman Zoe admitting new song plagiarized other works. Second is Jason regretting marriage, feuding with the In family. I was biting an apple playing on my phone, looking at these news, unmoved. The outside world's rights and wrongs unrelated to me. Those pasts are already past. Leon arranged work, we could depart for Mo. To celebrate my new life, for our trip's success, Leon personally cooked a table of good dishes that night. He poured me a glass of red wine, toasting me. "Congratulations, finally let go. Wish us both start a new life." I toasted back. We chatted heartily, speaking freely. Until midnight, the villa door was knocked. The nanny opened the door, but saw no one. In the darkness, an unclear figure flashed. "Who? Who's there?" the nanny exclaimed, attracting our attention. Leon immediately took bodyguards to the door. I followed too. That figure seemed unafraid of the scene. Slowly raised head, revealing profound eyes. "Jason." He held a paper manuscript in his arms, knuckles white. "Nina, I got your song back." I frowned, "I don't need it anymore. Please go back." Jason's throat choked, voice hoarse, "Nina, come with me. Don't marry him, I don't want you to marry. Marry me, I'll marry you." His voice was bright and clear. But the words made me doubt if I heard wrong. Marry me? I couldn't help laughing, as if hearing the biggest joke. Are you okay? I countered. Really inexplicable. I chased him for 3 years. Every day like a clingy dog, couldn't get an affirmation from him. He was unmoved by my admiration. Even sarcastically advised me to give up. Now, I gave up, left him. In just 2 months, he's willing to turn back for me. He choked, with a crying tone, sorry, Nina. Before, I didn't understand my heart, hurt you, I apologize for my actions. Can you forgive me? I looked at him, surroundings terribly quiet. The man before me protected me fully, gave me pampering, yet hurt me deepest. I replied faintly, we're just friends, no need to apologize. Thank you for making me see reality, I'm no longer obsessed with marrying you. Mr. Jason, I'm married, hope you can bless me. Leon stood beside me. Hearing, his hand unconsciously went to my waist, tightening. Jason, you still want to poach my corner? Leon sneered, bodyguards, close the door. Don't let the dog in. At the command, bodyguards closed the villa door. Back at the table again, I had no interest. Leon saw my change, softly, regret? It's still time to back out now. I shook my head, puzzled, I'm just somewhat strange, a person who rejected me without hesitation, how suddenly regret. But thinking, this has nothing to do with me. I'd rather look forward to our upcoming Mo trip. Leon nodded, thoughtful. Possibly because you're not there, he's not used to it. I looked out the window, bright moonspar stars. Murmuring, habits are so scary. I didn't know how long Jason guarded at the Lee Villa door. Servants said, the next day when they went out, saw Jason with dark eye circles. He stood straight at the door, hadn't left. From that day, Jason called me daily, sent texts. More terribly, he came to Lee home every day. Couldn't enter, so waited bitterly outside the villa. Every time I went out, I encountered him. His words always concise. Nina, come home with me. I ignored him, pretended not to see. He always tried to find topics with me. Nina, I added many dolls to your room, want to go back see? Guarantee you'll like. I newly learned a Jiangnan dish, the flavor you like, more chili no scallions, I'll make for you to taste. Croatian new necklace, do you like? We haven't gone to Riverside restaurant for meals in a long time, right? I only felt nagging. Very annoying. Running to Lee home daily to block me, delaying my and Leon's outings. More troublesome, daily I had to act with Leon. Pretend a newlywed loving couple. The departure day approaching. I had to think of a way. So, I tricked him, if you can, within 3 days, go to Mount Everest summit, insert this rose, guarantee it fresh not wilt, I'll let you in. I casually picked a rose from Lee Garden, handed to him. His eyes showed slight joy, carefully taking the rose. Holding in hands, afraid it wilt. Solemnly promised me. As long as you forgive me, I'll do anything. He immediately booked tickets, headed to Everest. After he left, I blacklisted all his contacts. As agreed, went to Mo with Leon. I sat in first class, looking at the scenery outside. Blue sky, white clouds, so leisurely. Gazing at Shanghai below, a trace of desolation. An idea emerged in my mind. I thought I'd never return here. The next few days, Leon and I toured Mo thoroughly. Saw the aurora, checked in at the northernmost point in China. We climbed snow mountains, skied, rode the snow country train, fed reindeer. Past matters thrown behind here. Changed environment, changed life. A week later, I told Leon my idea of settling down. And asked him to keep my whereabouts secret. After hesitation, he didn't stop me. We agreed, after marriage each lives own life, no interference. Just instructed, then take care of yourself, call me for anything. After finding me a house, he returned to Shanghai alone. People must live. Since decided to start anew, then forget the former Mrs. Life. Be the most ordinary person. Using the money saved in Shanghai these years, I opened a flower shop. Daily wrapping flowers, tending flowers, dealing with plants. Days passed very peacefully. The biggest worry was not knowing which takeout for lunch, too many flower orders to handle, wanting to eat the grandma's braised tofu at street end but not open. Springs went, winters came. I kept the flower shop, passing year after year. Until one day, I suddenly fancied a spontaneous trip. Just these years, saved quite some money. While young, see more landscapes. Say go and go, I handled shop matters, closed the door. I wandered aimlessly, go wherever. In just a month, I experienced desolate deserts, saw misty rainy Jiangnan, and nature's uncanny workmanship Mogao caves. At each place, with the mood then, I wrote a song. Recording my every step. Seeing Leon again was in Suzhou, Hangzhou. Leon happened to come here for business. He was happy to see me, we had dinner together. These years, Li family's business grew bigger, became a listed company with hundreds of billions in assets. He mentioned, after I left, Jason turned Shanghai upside down. Always searching my traces. To keep my secret, he was entangled by Jason daily. Had no choice, beat Jason into hospital for half a month. From then, Chen family cut ties with Li family. Chen family's business declined sharply, gradually nearing bankruptcy. He apologized to me somewhat embarrassed. I burst laughing, no need to apologize, he harassed you first. He looked at me, hesitantly, when he entangled me, always asking one thing. He sent you a very long text, did you see? I don't know what text, just kept brushing him off. Text? Back then I blacklisted all Jason's numbers. Had to remove from blacklist to see his texts. I said indifferently, all past, don't want to see. Years of plain life let me feel the value of ordinariness. How to think back to that extravagant life? A devoted heart betrayed. But now, on my face, can see some little girl's innocence. Leon saw I didn't care, sensibly changed topic. We toured Suzhou Hangzhou for 3 days. At parting, he still said, you should look at the text he sent you, probably important. On the return road, I pondered Leon's words. Hesitated long, finally decided to unblock Jason. Suddenly, hundreds of texts flooded my phone. Almost every text was his repentance. And the rose I gave him, inserted at Everest's summit. He took many photos to prove he did it. The hardships of this journey, probably only he knows. I searched half a day, found that long text Leon mentioned. Nina, sorry. It was me who neglected you, even unaware of your marriage. I know this marriage was mom pressuring you, to ally with Li family. I know you unwilling, you have your difficulties. For this, I want to salvage the situation by all means. Not only that, more importantly, I have selfish motives. I know my actions caused you much hurt, really sorry. That year, Dad brought you home, Mom was very dissatisfied. Thought sheltering you at home must have other reasons. Influenced by Mom, I also thought we had blood relation. So when you expressed feelings, I rejected straightforwardly. Even used another woman, wanting you to retreat knowingly. But I couldn't control my heart, let you truly leave. I wanted your love, wanted you to belong only to me. So repeatedly proposed, if unwilling to marry, I'll support you lifetime. That day you told me you married, I confronted Mom. Mom said you indeed have no blood relation with me, just because she doesn't like your existence. I desperately wanted to salvage you, want us back to before, but I know we can't go back. Nina, I love you. No matter where you are, wish you well. Gripping the phone, deep breath. After reading the texts, I didn't feel regretting missing. Probably, this life fated but not destined. Gazing at the scenery outside, endless grassland, cattle sheep lowing. I thoroughly deleted these texts. Like Jason, this person, thoroughly deleted from my heart, life. The train proceeded, I continued to the next stop's journey.